Welcome into a live Bruins beat presented by Prize Picks. Use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And of course, presented by CLNS Media. Make sure to go subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. Lots of great content, be it more of these live streams, hopefully after wins, not after losses like tonight. But we continue to pick the losses, which is just fantastic. And if you don't like watching us, you can obviously listen. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, wherever. Lots of other great stuff at CLNS too. Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access. Go check those out. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Mark Divver. Dibs. What's up?
That was a bit of a letdown, I would say, after the high of the Saturday night game against Montreal. But there are going to be these games during the long regular season.
Yeah, I was hoping. I was hoping for our sake coming on here after. Like, how fun would it be? Like, if the win in Montreal Saturday night, then you come home before going out west, you kick ass against the Hurricanes, and you go out west on a different note. And not the case tonight. I mean, they didn't have it. Yes, Keith, you're right. Should have been here for Saturday's game. I have a legitimate excuse. It was my girlfriend's birthday weekend. Actually, was not far from Montreal. I was in Burlington, Vermont this past weekend. I'd never been. Very nice city, but we went for her birthday. So I could not get away to do a live stream. Unfortunately, that was not in the cards for me this weekend. It stinks because Ty and I did a live stream last week after a loss, after the Leafs win. Like, that was the game before. Now we're doing this after the Canadiens win, but the Hurricanes lost. Just didn't have it tonight. I mean, again, they looked like a team without McAvoy. They looked like a team without Middlestat, without Arvidsson. They looked like what we thought, I think they would look like going into this season tonight.
Yeah, the piss and vinegar was missing tonight for sure, which is somewhat understandable given the number of games and the pressure on the lineup of being without very important players. You're going to pay a price for that at some point, and they certainly did tonight. In terms of missing McAvoy, missing Arvidsson, and so forth. You're right. They just didn't have it.
They didn't have it. And Slurp on Seb, for the first time in 3 years, I've missed a game. I feel like a shameful disgrace. I wouldn't feel like a shameful disgrace for missing this game. I don't think you really missed much. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in the comments are mentioning the schedule, and you even mentioned it too, Divs. Like, they have it rough right now. They've played a ton of games in not a lot of time, and they've looked. I think Thanksgiving is next week, and we'll kind of do our Thanksgiving review, look back at the first 25% of the season. But even after a game like tonight, I think you still have to be happy with where they are or what they've done so far. I think what's a little worrisome tonight is, you're right, you're missing guys like Middlestat and Arvidsson, who could be out for, I think it was week to week, Sturm said. And then you have McAvoy, who there has been no update given on, but just looked like a horrible injury on Saturday. And, again, if those guys are out, I'm assuming all three are not coming back for the California road trip, which is going to be tough. Like, they looked like they were missing those guys tonight. And, you get to see guys like Blumel and Steves in higher roles. And, Low Rye played a little bit more than usual, him and Asperat. So, like, you saw that. But someone said in the comments, a lot of people dunking on the new guys tonight. No, they weren't great, but it's their first game in a new system. That's absolutely true. It was their first game in a new system, or one of their first. But still, I think they looked like a team without those top guys.
Well, and what do people expect from those guys? I mean, some of the fan base seems to think that the Bruins have like half a dozen difference makers stashed down in Providence, just ready to come up and win games. And, it's ridiculous.
They don't?
They don't.
I thought they did.
They don't. Not only do they not have a half a dozen, they don't even have two or three. I mean, come on. These guys didn't make the team at the beginning of the year, and now what do you expect from them? Give them a little time, and maybe they can smooth out some of the rough edges here. But I mean, you without legitimate NHL players, you can't just call up guys from the American League and have them come in and pick up the slack right away. It just doesn't work that way.
And Tufte had the 1 goal tonight, so I'll give him that. He's been crazy so far, right?
Yeah, he has, and I drew this parallel on Twitter like I don't know 2 weeks ago. He's the same age and roughly the same size as Justin Brazeau. So, 2 years ago, did anyone think, oh, geez, Justin Brazeau, he'll be? I know he's out hurt now, but he'll be playing on a line with Sidney Crosby in a couple of years. I can see it now. Well, nobody thought that, and but I guess my point is, don't give up on some of these guys, especially the big ones. A big guy like him, 26 years old, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But I'm not ready to just pull the plug and give up on him at this point.
Shout out to SideQuest Life. Thank you for the donation. You answered my question as I was writing it, but I'm an honorable man, which we love. So here, going to both games in Cali. Only time I get to see them could be rough with injuries. Oh, you're out west, SideQuest. I like that. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a tough test. Divs, last time you and I sat here was after the Tampa loss, or just at the beginning of the year. And then they went out west and lost a bunch of games, and that started the whole losing streak. So hopefully that doesn't happen this time. But I mean, I don't, they're in a rough spot here because you're missing 4 full-timers, Elias Lindholm, McAvoy, Middlestat, Arvidsson, and you're going out to face a really good Ducks team, a young and fast Sharks team, and you're facing the Kings as well. So it's like going up to Thanksgiving break here, how you do in these 3 games is going to dictate how you feel going forward, because Thanksgiving is such a barometer. The only game after that, before Thanksgiving, is the Islanders won in New York the night before Thanksgiving. So this road trip is a huge kind of barometer of how we're going to look at them going into Christmas and throughout the rest of the season for a while.
Yeah, no question about it. And at least one cynical Bruins fan on Twitter tonight pointed out that a bad road trip, and they're back in the lottery. I mean, all the success that they've had could go by the boards if they have a losing streak now on this trip. So I mean, I think this is the way the season's going to be. I think, and I think the Bruins play so hard. That's one of the reasons they've had success so far. If you're playing hard and you're playing every other night because of the schedule, well, you're going to have injuries. Let's face it. So I don't think. I mean, are they going to have a completely 100% healthy team at any point the rest of the way? That's probably not.
Asking a lot.
But they're going to have to find a way, through it or else. So that's where it's at.
Yeah, it's funny. Like even with tonight, there were a lot of times Pasternak had the puck in the slot or in a shooting area or geeky. Hampus Lindholm does this at the point sometimes too, passing up shots on net. And it drives me nuts. You're not good enough to pass up on those shots. Shoot the puck. Shoot it, especially tonight. And because I saw someone mention getting goalied. Kucherov had a good game. We didn't get goalied per se, but sometimes a man has a good game and you don't have to feel like the sky is falling. And I know what you mean with that, but like, to me, like they didn't shoot the puck enough tonight. And I haven't seen Sturm's comments yet, but I'm sure he'll mention it at some point because I know he has in the past, where it's like just infuriating when they're passing up shots.
Yeah, they're not the kind of team with the personnel that they have, and it's even more diminished now with the injuries. They're not going to skill their way. They're not going to skill the puck into the net many times. We've seen some incredible goals early in the season here, but I'm with you. Put your head down and shoot the puck, especially 2-0 in the third period. They should have been shooting from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. It hits something and goes in, and you're down by 1. But they kept trying to set up these, I don't know, backdoor plays and one timers, and it didn't work.
It didn't. No, it didn't. And there were a couple with Pasternak, especially where it's like, dude, shoot the puck. Had a couple of
Yeah,
odd man rushes or chances in the slot. There was one with a one timer. I think it was in the second where he had it and opted to pass it and ended up back at the point with Zadorov and the play sort of died. There were multiple instances of that. And I think, they have to, I get what they're trying to do. We all love our high danger chances, but some of them were in legit high danger areas. And even if they're not, I still think with this team, you got to shoot the puck. Slurp on Seb asks, how did Blumel play? I thought he should have made the main team at least as an extra. I didn't really notice him much tonight. I thought he kind of got lost in the shuffle. I know he didn't play a lot there in the third. He was used on the power play. Am I sending him down after this? No. I still give him some runway, but I was not super impressed with him tonight. What did you think, Tibbs? Because I know you've watched a lot of him in Providence.
Well, it's good to see them using him on the power play, because that's where he can have an impact. He's not gonna, you put him on the fourth line, he's not gonna help you there. So
Agreed.
give him a chance, see what happens. Yeah, he was, I don't know if it was nerves or just unfamiliarity with who he's playing with, or a combination of both. But yeah, I wouldn't say he was particularly good tonight, but give him some runway and see what happens.
I like this comment. Right. We should be telling Pasta how goals are scored. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe Reggie, maybe you're right. Maybe we're not the guys to be advising on that. But I think we could say shoot the puck. I don't think that's
yeah, shoot the puck.
Shoot the puck. What's wrong with that? I think they're probably saying that to him too. Yeah, I think with Blumel it's interesting because they brought him in and there was such hype around him. He had high AHL numbers. It was like, this could be a top 6 winger. We talked about him a ton during training camp. They used him on the power play in training camp. And I think it sort of raised the expectations for him. And I'm very curious to see what he does on this West Coast road trip. I assume they would keep him in the lineup. I hope they do. Like, this is the time with Arvidsson and Middlestat out. I want to see him up in the top 6. I want to see him getting legit minutes. I'll give this. Steves has been noticeable. Like, Steves can play more physical than Blumel. I think he's a little more well-rounded than Blumel is. So I think you notice him a little bit more. But I want to see those. This is like the time with guys injured, with guys down. I want to see what you got. This is the time to do it. Now, why do you think, like someone asked this earlier, I don't have the comment in front of me, but like Patra's obviously a center. And Husendinov has played well as the first line center, and you have Minton and you have Zaka, so that probably cuts that off. But like Lysell, we'll have your Lysell minute be now. Why not? Why not Fabian Lysell?
Well, he hasn't gotten appreciably better along the walls or without the puck. I've seen a little bit more compete this year, or more compete, not a little bit more, just more compete this year. But in the last 2 weeks, he was sat out. He was a healthy scratch twice. Mm-hmm. So I feel like calling him up and passing over a guy like Blumel or Tufte or Merkelhoff, that's a big FU to those guys who are working every chance they get to try and improve their game. I just feel like consistency-wise, Lysell, it hasn't happened. There's been good games, no question about it, good stretches in games, but there's been some very poor play as well at the same time. He's still if the American Hockey League kept stats on how often players fall down, well, I think, Fabian would be near the lead. There's just, the same things that have happened in his first 3 years, many of them are happening in here his 4th year. So, I get, he's such a lightning rod. People, I hate to even mention him on Twitter because there's the reaction is so out of proportion to the player that he actually is right now. People have this idea of what he is, and he's not that. He's not that. Maybe someday, maybe he can be
Mhm.
that, but he ain't there now.
Yeah, how many years in are we with this?
4.
3, 4? Like, it's been a while. It's getting to
Yeah.
that point, where it's like, what do you have here? And I think that's one of the problems. I like someone said he's only 35. There you go. He's only 35. Someone asked, here's a good question. Mark, if McAvoy's out long term, could a guy like Sweezy get called up being a right shot guy? Talk about piss and vinegar. I mean, you get some good heavyweight tilts with Billy Sweezy. Do you see Billy Sweezy potentially being an option?
I'm going to say Billy's better as a depth guy in Providence than he would be as a full-time guy in the NHL. You know,
Mhm. That's
I
fair.
mean, he's not. I mean, to ask him to replace McAvoy, that's a huge ask. You know,
Yeah.
uh, I just don't see it.
Yeah, that's a lot. That would be a lot to ask from him for sure. I want to get into Fraser Mitten because Sturm relied on him a lot in that third and has been relying on him quite a bit this season so far. But first, this episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Not a huge goal scoring night tonight, but still, Bruins go out west. I like Morgan Geekie more than 0.5 goals. I like Pasternak oftentimes more than 1.5 points. Those two have been humming up until tonight, obviously. Prize picks simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. Prize picks also offers injury reboots. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, Prize picks won't count it as a loss. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize picks. It's good to be right. Good to be right over on Prize Picks. Fraser Mitten playing up with Pasternak. Sturm had Janot with him. Felt like they never left the ice in the third period. Mitten is a fascinating case. I think, when Sturm was hired, it was, I want to play kids. I want to develop young guys. And people get on the Bruins, obviously. Guys like Patra, Lysell, Blumel, Steves up until recently, down in Providence. And they weren't up here. But Sturm has rewarded a guy like Fraser Mitten. And Fraser Mitten also is responsible defensively and plays a 200-foot game. And I think you're seeing that. Like, I think he is turning into a guy that you can project as a middle six center for quite a while with this team.
Yeah, and I mean, he's earned the trust of his coach, and that's critical when you're a young guy trying to, establish yourself in the National Hockey League. Having a coach that trusts you, that he'll put you out there, and he'll give you a chance to do your thing, and kind of establish yourself and gain confidence and experience. I feel like he's won that, or he's earned that. He hasn't won it; he's earned it from Marco Sturm, and so he gets, to see him out there like on 3-on-3 in overtime. I mean, what does that tell you about what the coach thinks of him?
And his compete, like even playing Ottawa the other night in overtime, his defense on Stutzel, like that's fantastic. In overtime, usually let that guy just skate out of the zone and Minton's all over him. Like he's good at this. Like he fits up here. I don't see him going back down ever playing like this.
No, and the compete, I think compete is such an important part. Unless you're a Pasternak or a guy with unbelievable skill, compete is critical if you're going to be a good player. I see that in the American League on a regular basis. Guys that compete are the ones that you notice, that are successful, that play well, and oftentimes earn a call up. Guys that don't compete, or their compete is in and out, it comes and goes. Well, that's probably a reason why they're in the minors. And I think You know, I don't think I don't think Fraser Minton will see the American League again. I think he's you know, his days in the minors are over. He's a national leaguer now, and I think he'll continue to grow as a player and going forward. And it'll be interesting to see how good of a player can he be. You know, I think he's already some of the plays he's made with the puck and finishes on plays have surprised me a little bit because I didn't see a lot of that when he was in Providence at the end of last year. But it looks like there's upside there offensively, and that would be tremendous news for the Bruins if he can become more of an offensive threat to go along with his responsible play on the other side of the puck.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like when they acquired him, it was like, all right, this is like Charlie Coyle. This is a dependable third line center. And he's already doing that at a young
Yeah.
age. And I think
Yep.
I don't know if I've seen enough from his offensive game to say like, oh, you can someday he's going to be putting up 60 to 70 points. Like I don't see that yet. But a dependable guy that can play in all situations, that can slot up on the first line when he needs to and mainly play on the second or third, like yeah, that's what Fraser Minton is.
Yep.
And I think the fact that a guy like Sturm clearly really likes him, both as a person when he talks about him and on the ice when it comes to usage, I think is huge, and it's encouraging. And we've talked about this in depth with the Carlo trade of late, of like, oh man, what a win that was for the Bruins and Toronto scuffling. So if that pick ends up being like sixth, you're sitting pretty because again, it's top five protected and they don't have a first in 2027. So if it's a top five pick this year, it goes to 2028. But still, Mitten has exceeded expectations for sure. I think it's telling that they haven't playing with guys like Pasternak, especially in crunch time situations. I thought Hustendinov was fine tonight. In a 2-goal down 2-0. I don't know. I like Hustendinov's offense. Like I there was a nice play him, Kiki, and Pasternak had. I think it was in the second period. They didn't have many good plays, or it might have been the first, where Kiki almost scored on. And Hustendinov does have good vision, so that's fine too. I like this comment from SideQuest Life. Thank you again for the donation. Lysell is I had to look this up, a Rorschach test for sure, which I didn't know what it was. And yes, SideQuest is from LA by way of New Hampshire. Whoa, I was in New Hampshire. I drove through New Hampshire this weekend. Going from Manch Vegas to LA. I love that. A Rorschach test, I don't know if you knew this, Divs, is a psychological assessment that uses 10 standardized ink blots to analyze a person's personality traits and emotional tendencies by examining what they see in the ambiguous images. So I guess you put one in front of Lysell, or Lysell is the image, and we're here to test what Fabian Lysell is. I think that's what he means. And
Yeah.
no one's gone through this test more than you down in Providence. You have been studying him for 4 years now, so you've got a good mastery of that Rorschach. Jack the Yak is saying Rorschach. So
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I like that. I like that.
That works. Slurp on 7. Hagens and Minton 1-2 punch will be generational. There you go. Divs, it's a good time. You love college. What have you seen from Hagens so far down at BC? What's caught your attention?
I think he's had some moments the last couple of weekends where he's looked really good. Maybe that I don't want to say he's coming around, but because he was, it's not like he was playing poorly or anything, but he's in a tough spot because BC without Leonard, without Fowler, without Perreault, they're a completely different team than he played on last year there. And now a lot of the offensive pressure is on him. So that's a lot to live up to. And teams are free now to concentrate on stopping him instead of like, oh, geez, we got to stop Ryan Leonard. Now everyone's focused on James Hagens. So that's a tough spot to be in. I think he's got to continue to work on his strength. That's a thing. He's not going to be 6'3". That's not going to be something for him, but he needs to be stronger. And he's only 19 years old at this point.
Yeah.
He's nowhere near the point where he's got the man strength that hockey coaches sometimes like to talk about. So, I think if he had a little more help around him, Gasso's hurt, Jelvik's hurt, guys that might be scoring and helping James Hagan's pile up more points. Those guys aren't doing it because they're not available. So his numbers, you might look at them and think that he's having a bad year. Well, I don't think that's the case. He's been on the line sheet recently as a left wing. Now, I was told by someone close to him that this was because of faceoffs. He needs to be better on faceoffs. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. He could still be at center on the line chart and just not take faceoffs, right? To be on there
don't you want him to develop faceoff wise too?
Yeah, of course. Unless there's some, I don't know, are they hiding an injury? Is there something wrong that prevents him from being effective on draws and they want to, hide that a little bit? Maybe that's the case. I'm sure I'm overthinking that part of it, but I'm looking forward to seeing him build on the last 2 weekends when he did he made some nice plays. Build on that going into the World Juniors. I mean, let's face it, he was an absolute stud at the World Juniors last year, and he's going to be again under pressure to match that. If he has a subpar tournament, then people are going to be on him about that, and we're seeing to a ridiculous extent, how top players can get dragged down if they don't exceed expectations. We're seeing that with Gavin McKenna right now. There's all these stories about how he's underachieving and he's a disappointment. Well, for God's sake, he's scoring a point a game in a very, very tough conference. I mean, what in the heck were people expecting from him? So I think there was that going on with James Hagan's last year a little bit, and the pressure's going to be on in the World Juniors to really come through with a big performance.
World Junior is going to be huge for him, no question about it. And I'm with you. And you and I have talked about this 1,000 times here at Rinks. College is as good as it's ever been.
Yeah,
you're playing grown men. They may not be the highest skilled. You might not know their names, but when you're going up against 23-year-old 6'3" defenseman from UMass Lowell, that's a hard assignment. That's a hard night getting to the front of the net. And I'm not making excuses for Hagens. I'm not making excuses for a kid like McKenna or anybody in college hockey, but it's really freaking good. And you have a lot of teams that are not going to get the Hagens type players who have said, you know what, that's fine. We're going to go get the age outs in junior hockey who are huge, and they're going to come in as freshmen and they're going to stay 4 years, and that's what they're going to be. And they're completely grown men. That's what college hockey is. And you have guys like Celebrini who are, generational college players. You have guys like Will Smith who come in and just see the game at a different level, and are on a different level. And I'm happy for Will that he's having fantastic success in San Jose this year. Him and Celebrini have been outstanding. They are my West Coast watch. I always tell people that's like the team I watch at 10 p.m. They come on. I have them on. Someone asks, Eberflosser asks, thoughts on the Beecher situation? Does he get claimed? If not, what's his role in Providence? For those who didn't see, the Bruins put Johnny Beecher on waivers. We won't know until 2 p.m. tomorrow if he gets claimed. What do you think, Tibbs? What's your take?
I think he gets claimed because it's been my experience in covering the game that teams always think that they can fix a guy. And when you have some tools like Johnny Beecher clearly has, he's got size, he's a terrific skater. Somebody will look at him and say, well, we can use a guy like that. And if he doesn't score more than 6 or 7 goals a year, if he can win us some draws, he can play effectively that way, then why not? It's only a waiver claim. It's not you're not giving up assets. So I think he gets claimed. and I hope he goes on and is able to, establish something more than he was able to do in Boston. Which, let's face it, he hasn't been good here recently. He wasn't good last year. He could barely get in the lineup this year. A change of scenery will probably do him good, and it opens up room on the Bruins roster. Somebody was saying about its poor asset management. Well, the asset is sitting in a chair on the ninth floor. What's good is he doing you up there? Get him, move him on, and bring someone else in that maybe can do more. That's how I look at that, and I hope it works out for him.
Yeah, there's no trade value. So it's not like you can do much with him. I'm with you. I don't see how he gets through waivers. Former first round pick, has speed, can play in the bottom six. You're 100% right. I mean, look at the Bruins last year with Wallstrom, where it was like, teams like to think that they can rehabilitate players, and it's a natural human instinct to think that. And maybe they can with Beecher. Maybe you can turn him into a good fourth line center. Like, it happens. He has the speed. But like, there were so many games last year, Divs, where it was like, I didn't notice him. You did
No,
not notice him last year.
he was a bit, to me last year, he was a bad hockey player. He was a bad hockey player. As for his role in Providence, if he gets there, I mean, he's not going to play ahead of Patra. He's not going to play ahead of Patrick Brown. And the prospect truthers have heart attacks every time I praise Patrick Brown. And let me say again, aside from the goalies, he's the best player in Providence. They don't want to hear that, but he is. He is. So he's not playing ahead of him. So where's that put him on? Centering the third line? What's the point of that? Do you make him into a left wing? I don't know. Maybe there's an idea there. Maybe center isn't the way with him. But I don't know. We'll see. I think we agree he's going to get claimed, and if he doesn't, then we'll go to Plan B.
I like that. Patra's skill and Beecher's body. That could work. Get that. Get yourself a player there. I like that. Merge.
Yeah, but you know what though? One of the things that's lacking a little bit in Beecher, not all the time, but I feel like Patra's compete is more in evidence more often than Beecher's.
Completely agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's what they're saying. I think Patra's assets, everything not Patra is, put him in Johnny Beecher's body. You got something there. I think that.
I mean, you can't just tell the guy, listen, if you just try harder, you'll be in the NHL. That isn't how it goes. But more compete would certainly do him good.
It would. Yeah, it's not working here. It's not.
Yeah,
it's
not working.
It just isn't. You're 100% right. It's time for a change. That happens. Yeah, it's time for a change. I think we've hit on everything. In this. Just to wrap it up, obviously tough loss. West Coast road swing. Good teams out there now. Used to be kind of easy games, dud games. Going to play Anaheim was like, all right, that's a win. San Jose, that's a win. Teams have been better. LA is always a tough out. We'll do more of these. We'll do some of these for games coming up as we have been. Dibs, what can people look forward to from you in Providence?
I'll be doing my usual thing with the P Bruins and going to college games and so forth. And the prep season's about to get rolling here. It's going to be an interesting year for that with, players moving up to the CHL. Some of the top kids are gone. So that'll be interesting. And I know you'll be all over that. It'll be interesting to see how that goes, in terms of keeping the best kids or moving them on or whatever happens.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go follow all that New England Hockey Journal. That's all over there. That's this week, next week, every week until March, April. So that'll be a busy time over there. But Divs, as always, thank you for doing this. Thank you for jumping on, engaging with the
Thank you.
people. They love your Providence Bruins perspectives and your Boston Bruins perspectives. And friendly reminder, make sure to subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. Lots of great stuff over there all the time. And we'll be doing more of these going forward. One last question. Regine asks, who wins Hockey East? Who's your Hockey East pick right now? Who would you say?
If you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said BU all the way.
And not so
Now,
much now. Not so much
now
now.
I'm going to say it's just wide open. It's wide open. Northeastern is rolling right now, or they were until this past weekend. But I don't know. I might go with UConn as a dark horse.
Ooh.
They play hard. They play hard. You know, they lost some after last year, but they're good. And at this point, with BU in kind of in shambles, although I'm confident they will, their coaching staff will get them back on track. But you know, Northeastern's going to be playing most of the second half on the road, all of it on the road.
Yeah, all of it on the road.
So Maine has been up and down. Providence hasn't really put it together yet. Who am I leaving out? UMass has been good at times, not so good at other times. You know, I don't know what's going on with their goalie. He's not even on the line chart the last couple of weekends. So I guess he's injured. That's the word. He's injured, but they need him, you know, in good health if they're going to go anywhere. So it's really it's wide open. Wide open.
It is. You want to pick from me? I would say Maine. I think Maine pulls it out. They're on the doorstep every year, and the seas are sort of parting. I like the UConn pick, though. UConn gets so overlooked and slept on, and you're right. They play so hard. They have a really good underrated lineup.
Yeah.
So I could see that too. This is goodbye for real, though. Divs, thank you as always. Viewers, thank you for tuning in live, interacting with us. We very much appreciate it. I'm Evan Marinofsky, your Bruins Beat listeners and viewers. Have a great rest of your week.